Language teacher feedback on communicative tasks can often get stuck in the shallows of isolated examples. Words, phrases, or sentences are written on the whiteboard. By focusing on isolated examples exclusively, the meaning is obscured as you're unable to see the context and co-text. The errors are like fish out of water. Reinforcing this, Thornbury once said, language is realized as whole text, rather than isolated words or sentences. Teachers need to suit up, get some oxygen, and go on a language deep dive. By exploring wider stretches of language beyond the sentence or word level, who knows what we might find. Hi, I'm Damien Herlihy, a vlogger at Pavilion ELT. Welcome to the November-December issue of the Modern English Teacher. The theme of this issue is grammar and vocabulary. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Danny Norrington-Davies' article, A Deep Dive into What Learners Say. This article immediately caught my eye as I've read Danny's previous book, Teaching Grammar from Rules to Reason, and it was a great read. I want to read his take on working with emergent language. Looking back at my own teaching experience, I'll definitely say I've lent more towards shallow feedback techniques, so I'm really interested in finding out some practical tips on how to deep dive into classroom language. And Danny doesn't disappoint. In his article, he explores some tasks and techniques to help learners explore language at a deeper reasons level. Let's dive in to some emergent language. Well, emergent language, as discussed by Danny and Richard Chin in the Teacher Talking Time podcast, refers to the language that arises naturally in the context of a classroom setting, based on the student's immediate needs, questions, and contributions. This concept moves away from strictly pre-planned lesson content and instead focuses on language that emerges during classroom interactions. A learner-generated text, as defined by Danny, is one that is co-created by learners with support from the teacher during a lesson. For example, learner-generated texts could be texts created by images, stories, or experiences learners share in class. They could also be ones created during communicative tasks performed in pairs or small groups. Danny believes it's easier for learners to explore the reasons from the perspective of the writer or speaker within the genre. It gives oxygen to deep dive into the language. The models in text are personal and relevant for students, which can make the language work more memorable. Also, the language input is provided at the point of need, as it emerges, rather than following a discovery exercise or a receptive listening skill type task. Finally, as learners generate their own texts, the lesson is rich in emergent language. In the article, Danny gives two examples to illustrate his ideas. I'm going to focus on his first example. The example lesson is pitched at B1 students and above. The teacher uses an image to generate a story, while the learner-generated text is then used to explore narrative tenses along with other useful or emergent language. The teacher engages learners by eliciting from them what can go wrong when cooking a meal. The teacher then displays an image of a cooking disaster. Danny's example has a cat causing a bit of a mess. In pairs or small groups, the learners then create the story behind the image. When students finish, they share the story. The students then vote on which story they like best. The teacher then elicits this story from the students, writing it down on a whiteboard as they go. If there are errors, the teacher can correct or elicit reformulations from the class. Here's a real example from one of Danny's lessons. I was cooking a special meal for my sister's 21st birthday and made a lasagna. I was walking over to the fridge to put it there, but I tripped over the cat, who had walked in looking for food. The food went everywhere. I just sat on the floor crying while the cat licked it up. Now for the deep dive. In pairs or small groups, the learners work out the reasons why they're using the past simple, past progressive, and past perfect simple in the story. Students need to go past pedagogic rules and think about how each tense or aspect functions within the story. Danny then shared some reasons generated by two groups of pre-intermediate learners. The past progressive is the story starting, and past simple is the story continuing. The past progressive is how I show it as a story. The past perfect explains why something happened in the past. The past perfect is the cause, the cat walked in, and the past simple is the result. I tripped over the cat. Danny noted two interesting outcomes from these student reasons. One, students recognize the function of the past progressive in not only starting a story, but signaling to the listener that you are telling one. The second is the ability to go past the idea that the past perfect simple is just something that happens earlier, but also something that impacts the story later. Learners are moving beyond information they've learnt and creating new knowledge. They're repairing or adding to their mental models of language as outlined by Swain. Finally, for further practice, the students complete a replication task. The task puts a slightly different spin on the original activity and gives the students a chance to recycle what they've learnt from the original task. Students describe their own food disaster, invent a situation, or use another picture. You can see in this example, the students effectively applied the three tenses from the original story to their story. Last Friday, I was cooking eggs for my family. I put some salt on it, I gave the omelette to my family, then they recognized that the taste was sweet because my mother had put sugar in the salt shaker. So that's a quick dive into emergent language and how to manage it in the classroom. If you want to explore this topic further, then Pavilion ELT has a great title, Working with Emergent Language by Richard Chin and Danny Norrington Davies. Now I'd love to hear from you. Are you a deep diver or a shallow water type teacher when it comes to feedback, and why? If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos on teaching approaches. You can also check out the Modern English Teacher magazine for more articles and insights from teachers in the field. It's been another great year vlogging for Pavilion ELT. We've covered a lot of ground from drilling to young learners to time management. I'm very thankful to have this role and for you, the audience, who continue to support us by watching it. I hope you get as much value out of it as I do. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye for now.